Call this meeting, of the Wayne County Commissioners, to order. Any corrections or additions to the minutes?
Move for approval.
Second.
Okay, Denny?
Mr. President, I move to pay the claims of 6:30, and there are 3 sets requiring 3 signatures.
Second.
Unanimous?
And I move to pay the MasterCard claims for May.
Okay.
Second.
Unanimous? Thank you. Ron?
I don't have a lot. I've been trying to clear the deck and get out of town for a week next week. There's definitely a client conspiracy against that happening.
All of us want something.
I hate when that
Unless
happens.
I want to become a divorce lawyer, I'm going to have to go in. When I return, one of the first things we'll be doing is a meeting of the redevelopment commission for purposes of determining how much of net assessed valuation should be captured for taxes payable in 21. Recall, we now have 6 allocation areas: original Taconic Farms, or Taconic Bioscience, the original Dot Foods, and then the original Really Cool Foods, which is now Sugar Creek Packing, to which we have added Recovery Works expansion, and then the JMB Properties, which has the truck facility. So we have pledged 100% of the TIF revenues generated by the Dot Foods allocation area to repayment of its TIF bonds, which we amortized in 2010 because they weren't, there was not enough TIF being generated to service the debt, and there is still. And in fact, there will be a balance left at the end of the maturity of those bonds, but there's still a shortfall. And last year's shortfall was only about $1,100 before the before the trustees' fees were paid, and about $2,500. So that one is, there's no decision. That's a pledge that's been made. That's be honored. As to the Sugar Creek, we negotiated a 10% pass-through for the redevelopment commission to either capture or allow the underlying units to receive. And then as to the other allocation areas, they are totally unpledged and unencumbered as far as any kind of commitment, legal commitment. In the past, we've been trying to accumulate funds based upon the uncertainty of what the outcome of the Western One Regional Sewer District project would be. Apparently, the documents still haven't been agreed to, but we know where our exposure there is $1 million, and I think that's, and we expect contribution from the redevelopment commission toward that, and those monies are available. There are other expenditures on the horizon that could have revolving loan fund implications if that would be the pleasure of A, the redevelopment commission, but B, they're going to act upon the recommendation of the commissioners of the county council. And obviously, the largest one I'm aware of is the water tower. That's what I have to be addressed.
And that could be as much as
I need direction
500.
from you folks as to whether you would wish me to advise the redevelopment commission when it meets that it's still your desire to capture that assessed value, which is capable of being captured for 1 more year, or if you want to take a position slightly less aggressive than that.
I would move that we recommend to the redevelopment commission that they capture the maximum amount possible.
Yeah, I agree.
And then I will be conducting the annual meeting at a later date, and by that time we'll know the exact dollars that we're talking about, that we will project projected. It's almost a function of tax collections that we're looking at right now. The neutralization's been completed, so I'm asking Kim to give me her best estimate. That's all we can do about what commission will have.
I second the motion.
Unanimous.
Okay, that's really all I had. Like I say, I'm trying to work on the final, what I hope is the final draft of the lease. Steve and I'll get together when I get back to, they're concerned about identifying what I call their obligations under the triple net lease that they may choose to allow the county to continue to provide, such as trash collection and deposit and dumpster provision. And if we do, then those costs will be passed on. There may be others. The only stickler that I've seen in going through the comment letters that I got, the letter that I got from Rick Boston, there's still a lot of heartburn over that HVAC system, and I don't have an answer for that. I tried to build in a lower threshold where the county's money starts kicking in at any repair estimated to be $5,000 or more, whereas for general maintenance, for roof would be a problem, or foundation, we had a $25,000 threshold, so they'd be on the hook for the first 25. Or actually, if the estimated costs were over 25, it would be the county's obligation, considered an abnormal repair, not beyond normal wear and tear.
So the HVAC issue hasn't gone away. It's still a problem there, and
Oh, yeah.
It's still a problem. It's probably not going to get any better.
And they're going to look to us as the landlord to
Yeah,
make
we're-
some sort of
Sure.
improvement to
Yeah.
their satisfaction. So we should keep that money until,
Well-
or not reimburse them that money until.
Well, we're looking at the, excuse me, we're looking at the $74,000
Right.
rental overpayment as basically a holdback that would part and parcel of the overall program income holdback. And that's kind of a win-win, and we don't have to dole out the $74,000 or even get it from the rental credit necessarily.
The difference is if they want to come back on us and say, okay, now you, as a landlord, you got to put the air conditioning in, and that's $250,000 or more to correct that and put the air conditioning system in. That's not
But
really
that-
to our advantage.
Well,
to
we
do
could, wouldn't that become negotiable then on their rent payment? I mean, we could amortize
If you look at
that.
the lease I prepared, the county disavows any obligation to replace that HVAC.
Okay,
Okay.
okay.
Only to
Do
let
normal
the one that's
maintenance.
existing there limp along,
But
Okay.
is it normal for a tenant to do that? And then
not
not,
to replace the whole system.
yeah, that's not normal.
Pardon?
It's not normal to do that.
No.
So what is, somebody in the future will have to figure out a solution to
Yeah.
that, but,
Well, either that or if they get
Major
different
system
doctors.
replacement
Yeah.
due to a failure, whether it's a new roof, whether it's, whatever, structural, even in a triple net lease, usually falls back on
on the landlord, yeah, that's how it should be. Okay.
Okay, thank you very much. Ron Cross, County Attorney. Colin Val Schaefer, President of the Economic Development Department.
Beth, would you mind handing these out? Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Congratulations, Commissioner Butters, on your win last night, and Jeff Plaster, too. I'm going to take this off so I can talk. I'm safe up here. Well, the EDC board, we did meet via Zoom on Monday afternoon. Mary Ann did join us, so she's heard all of this before, so please feel free to jump in if you have any additional comments.
Excellent meeting.
Thank you. So just really quickly, you'll see on page 5 of our financial reports, significantly under budget by $55,000 for the year. A lot of that is due to the inability to travel, which also saves us money on staff training and education and conference fees and such, as we're not able to go anywhere. You'll see in the packet under other business, we did have a lot of business transactions on Monday, one of which being we did finally approve the transfer of the Elder Beerman building to the City of Richmond, as well as the lease agreement with the City of Richmond. Both have already been approved by the city's Board of Works, so we'll be able to close on that transaction. And as you know, the maintenance agreement has been approved by all bodies as well. So we'll be moving forward with all of that. And this puts us in a great place to be able to issue the RFP for the building in the coming weeks. You'll see the TPMA proposal for Opportunity Zone Technical Assistance. That's an important component to the RFP. The City of Richmond is working with TPMA to enter into an additional contract for technical assistance, which means that they are going to be a partner with the city and the EDC, reaching out to developers, seeking meetings, promoting our 5 projects within the Opportunity Zone prospectus, knowing that the Elder Beerman property is the top priority. They'll also be able to help us find Opportunity Zone funds that meet our needs, so we can reach out to those investors as well, and then also help prepare a financing package and local incentives to help hopefully bring some projects to fruition. So the EDC will be contributing $6,000 out of our operating budget towards the TPMA contract to be partners with the city once again in working with them. So it'll be great to have 3 additional great minds at the table from TPMA to help sure we can bring some of these projects to fruition in downtown Richmond. You'll see we looked at the Wayne County COVID-19 Small Business Loan Program. So starting on page 47, these are the final guidelines that have been approved by the Revolving Loan Fund Board. We asked the EDC Board for 2 things on Monday, one of which is to amend the 2020 edit priorities for consolidated edit funding. So just as a refresher, on page 48, the EDC Board, along with the commissioners back in April 2019, approved these new edit grant guidelines, which are qualifiers for private for-profit businesses to qualify for consolidated edit grants for their projects. In addition, under additional considerations, we have that bullet regarding special economic development projects to be considered funding as identified as priorities of the EDC and the Wayne County government. So page 2, which is on page 49, number 1 through 4, you had jointly approved along with the EDC Board as our 2020 priorities for the year. This was pre-COVID-19, and so we have added bullet number 5, which is funding to support the Wayne County COVID-19 loan program for small businesses located in Wayne County to help mitigate business interruption expenses and loss of revenue caused by COVID-19. So with your support today in approving and adding that as a priority, that would then allow us to access consolidated edit funding towards the loan fund program that would add to all of the existing funds committed by the other entities.
I move to revise the 2020 EDC priorities by adding a 5th point, funding to support Wayne County COVID-19 loan program.
Second.
Unanimous.
Thank you. With that being approved, if you want to move into the pooled fund participation agreement that Ron has prepared, I'm sure you've seen that. We are looking at allocating $250,000 from the Consolidated Edit Fund to put towards the new revolving loan fund program for COVID-19. So the EDC Board did approve recommendation to allocate that $250,000. So I hope I will have your support today so we can have the final approval needed to have a total of $900,000 available to loan to small businesses at 0% interest.
I move to allocate $250,000 from the Consolidated Edit program to add to the COVID-19 loan program.
Second.
Unanimous.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for your support.
It's been a hectic week. I can't recall, did you guys execute the pool funding agreement last week?
I don't think we did.
No, we thought there were going to be further revisions, so we
Right.
didn't.
We were waiting for it.
So we probably need to have a motion to approve the pool
Motion to approve
funding.
it, because I think it's in final form, and then I'll make sure you get a copy.
Okay,
And I think
yeah.
it just calls.
I would move to approve the
Pool funding and participation
yeah,
agreement.
what he said.
Participation
For the
agreement.
COVID-19 administered through the revolving loan fund.
Yes.
I second.
Unanimous.
Wonderful, thank you.
That just requires the president's signature.
Okay.
And I'll
Did we
give you my
just dot all
signature
the
before we
i's
leave
and cross
today.
all the t's? I think
So
we
I
did.
think we did, yeah.
Okay. So while we're talking about that, the EDC will be hosting the loan fund program guidelines and the application on our website. So as we're looking to finalize that webpage, I think as the county is considering buying and distributing PPE to small businesses, it would be very wise of us to have information about that on that same website, because the last thing we want is for small businesses not to be aware of the supplies that are available from the county and use their loan fund dollars or the new Governor's Restart Program grant dollars to buy PPE when it can be provided to them for free. So I'm just wondering if there's an update on that
Well,
front that
we
you
are
can
working,
provide at
we
this
have our
time?
first shipment of masks in, so we have those available. We do have the 6-foot distancing decals available. We're working currently on the hand sanitizers, so we're working on that. We would hope to have that available soon also. Those items will be made available in a reasonable amount to businesses that need those. We have had requests already from one doctor's office, one of the food banks, and the city of Hagerstown. So those are the 3 requests we've had so far, which we have provided masks to them. So
And I've had requests from all of the innkeepers. So I am very concerned about this being a very, very slippery slope. I think our first mission is to satisfy the needs of county government, which are going to be largely consumed by the courts, because as we have large jury calls, those masks and all of those supplies will go
we're
very,
in
very
good shape.
fast.
I have 376,000 masks that will be coming. And we got the first shipment on 126,000 of them that are sitting out there right now. And so we'll be in good shape as the courts begin. Next week, I should have another 126,000 coming in. I'm in negotiations now, looking at 300,000 or 400,000 more. I'm trying to get another nickel off of each mask. And so I've got 2 or 3 sources that I'm working on. And those pennies make a big difference in the quantity that we're buying. We've anticipated that within the system here and the courts and everything, that we might use as many as 300,000 by the end of the year on that. So we would have sufficient quantity. So if somebody walks in and says they want 50,000 or 100,000 masks, we're not going to give them that many. But we'll give them a reasonable amount that they're looking for.
So has there been a formal process created? Is there a point of contact or anything that we should be promoting?
To answer that question, the answer to that is no at the moment, because I need to work with you, I need to work with Melissa on the 600 members in the chamber that they have, you know, to get the word out that we do have these available. I got to get back to Ron, because Ron told me at one time we probably should, if I recall, document as we give these to the individuals in case Indiana Finance Authority says, well, who'd you give all these masks to and everything on there. And so I don't have, and that's Ron, do you think I should get a signature on each of these as we give them to them, or?
I mean, I don't know what the distribution plan is, but we're obviously talking about bulk distribution, so I don't think so.
I think we need a system
Right.
in writing for fairness. For example, would this only be available to tax-paying entities? For example, for-profit organizations? Or will they be available to churches, for nonprofits, to nursing homes, to sole proprietors,
Yeah.
You know, I think we really need to have a written guideline so that when we are no longer able to do it, is it always just first come, first serve? Or do we go to a lottery system for distribution? Because this material is very, very hard to acquire. It's not just the cost of it, because Kenny, you can attest, and I can attest, to how difficult it is to get this material shipped from China. And
Yeah, I would highly urge a process of some sort be put in place, because I would like for you to consider providing it to not-for-profit organizations as well. For example, a large number of our childcare facilities are not-for-profit organizations, part of churches. They need it significantly in order to be able to safely reopen and lower their operating costs so they're not spending their dollars on PPE. So I'd be happy to have further conversations with you,
Good,
Ken, on
good.
trying to put some framework around this.
I'd be more than happy to have that help, yeah.
Okay,
I
because
think
we're
we-
getting ready,
Yeah.
you know, as we launch this loan fund program, we're gonna be working on a very expansive communication plan to make sure that we're, you know,
word
getting
gets out.
information out to all of the organizations who can distribute it to their networks, all the town councils, Main Street organizations, chambers. So if we can communicate all of this at the same time, these two different programs that are going to be available to them, I think it would be hugely beneficial.
Good, glad to do that, yeah.
Okay,
But it does need to be, and I think if we could approve that at our next meeting next Wednesday, you know, to have that very clearly in writing, we really need to have that understood.
we really want to launch the loan fund program sooner rather than later. I'd hate to wait another week.
When are you gonna launch?
Well, we'd hope
This
to
week?
launch this Friday, but my communications manager is telling me we should wait until Monday, just because you don't want it to get lost and forgotten over the weekend.
weekend.
And
Okay.
as people are going back to work on Monday, would be a good time to launch it. But I need to have conversations with Jeff and the rest of the loan fund board to get their input as well.
Fine, I'll work with you, and Ron's getting ready to go out of town, and, because he doesn't want to get divorced, so, so if we need anything from our legal representative, we've got a couple of days here. I think today's trying to leave, I think Friday night, aren't you? Or Friday. So I'll be happy to meet with you. We'll try and get something together, okay?
Okay.
Just the counterpart signatures, put down those 5 copies of the signature page, and give the 5 originals of your signature, and move the simple counterparts out.
For the
Are
pool
you
fund
thinking
agreement?
churches?
Okay.
Churches could whip through these in
All
a
right.
New York minute.
Wait on that.
Okay.
Well, if, we wouldn't be able to provide them forever to them. That's one thing. We can give them some initial ones to get started, but for them to rely on us for the next 6 months, you know, that we probably can't do, but we can give them some to get them
See, I think
started
we
and
need
get
a
them back
cap.
in business and so on.
Yeah, you need to come up with a cap based on the number of
Right.
employees.
Because originally
potentially.
on, I had one of the nursing homes, they wanted 40,000. And I said, no, I don't think we can do, well, we didn't even have them at that time, but I said, I don't think we can do that many, yeah.
Especially for an organization that's had steady revenue all through COVID,
Right,
right? So-
that's right.
Nursing homes are somewhat an essential business.
Sure. So I have one more thing for you, if we're ready to move on.
Yeah,
Okay. We have an edit grant on page 56. This is edit grant number 20-202 from Element 13. That is the company that the EDC board last month approved a real estate purchase agreement for 15.5 acres in the Midwest Industrial Park with the right of first refusal for 17 more acres to the north. As part of their incentive package, they do qualify for an edit grant in the amount of $146,000. They are investing a minimum of $15.85 million in a new 60,000 square foot aluminum cast house and plan to create 30 new jobs at an
Excellent.
average wage of $20.55 an hour. This is very much in line with the formula that we use and is a fair amount based on other grants that have been issued to other companies.
And at Monday's EDC board meeting, Leon, what's his last name, was
I
present?
can't pronounce it.
I
I'm not going
couldn't,
to pretend to.
I couldn't even phonetically, but he's a partner and the developer of the plant, and he went on the record, he promised 12 months from that first shovel of dirt being turned, this plant will be operational in the Midwest Industrial Park.
sounds like a guy after my heart.
He was here right there on the barrelhead. He said, and he apparently opens a lot of plants throughout North America. This is not his first rodeo.
Correct.
And he was very impressive. And I think we're very fortunate to have this commitment of $146,000. is just the beginning. This is phase one of what Element 13 hopes to do. And Leon explained that from this, heavily recycled aluminum, the value they add to this commodity is incredible. It goes not just to aviation and automotive, but to aerospace. So what comes in, a clump of aluminum goes out highly sophisticated to the aerospace industry. So I think we can be very proud of this. So I would like to move for approval of this edit grant proposal.
Second.
Unanimous.
Good going.
Okay.
Are you going to talk about the annual meeting, which I felt was, I've never been so excited in a Zoom meeting. The annual meeting was very impressive.
So, based on the EDC bylaws, we have to have an annual meeting by June of every year, and unfortunately, we couldn't have our annual celebration in May as we originally planned. So, Marianne, I failed to bring the 2019 highlight form with me today, so I'm going to have to hold off until next month to give you an overview of 2019 activity. But Renee put together a really nice 3-page document that kind of gave an overview of all the projects that we worked on, as well as other initiatives under workforce development, industrial park development, and marketing and communications, and the work that we accomplished last year. So I will bring that back to you in July.
Well, I have some softball questions.
Sure.
One of the questions that citizens pose to those of us elected officials is, how much does the state of Indiana spend just to acquire one job? We know the Indiana Economic Development Corporation has a big budget. What's the average that the EDCs in Indiana spend just to acquire one new job in Indiana?
Typically, it's roughly $8,000 to $10,000 a job
Per job,
what-
but that job will pay quite a lot over time, and it generates taxes, more than $8,000 or $10,000 in taxes over a few years.
Right.
So it ultimately pays for itself pretty quickly. $8,000 to $10,000 is the average in the state of Indiana. Okay, well, that's not too bad because it pays for itself, $8,000 to $10,000. Which makes us want to know, what does Wayne County's Economic Development Corporation average in its cost per job, Ms. Schaefer?
So last year, based on the 6 projects that we worked on, they were all local expansion projects. We spent just a little under $3,000 per job through.
Did I hear that correct? Could you say that again?
$3,000 per job.
Under three.
Yeah.
I think that deserves a round of applause. What
Thank
you
you.
have done for under $3,000, that will pay for itself in under a year in taxes back to Wayne County.
I think we're able to accomplish that because we have such low cost of doing business in this area, and so companies certainly see the benefit of that. I know we hear a lot of workforce challenges, but a lot of our companies are very pleased with their local workforce, and so that certainly aids in our ability to compete with other plants for these expansions. So I really have to say a lot of great things about our local workforce because they contribute greatly to these decisions.
Very good. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Job well done. Yeah.
I think that was, Element 13 basically brought us through the site select competition process.
No, that was actually a direct lead. A local, a Richmond native, does business with with 2 of the brothers that own a similar type operation in Pendleton, Indiana. And they started talking about the benefits of operating in Richmond, introduced them to me, and they looked at a couple other sites in East Central Indiana and also ultimately had a great experience working with all of our local leaders here in Richmond and Wayne County. And
So their consultant that you listed is not necessarily a site selector or?
that's correct. The consultant was hired after the fact just to help negotiate and execute incentives.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. So our local citizens can be huge advocates for lead generation.
That's
and-
right.
and
You
we-
never know who they know. That's right.
Absolutely. So
Yeah.
we plan to do a whole marketing campaign around that, letting everyone know that they can be ambassadors for Wayne County too and help bring new leads to the EDC.
Finder's fee under consideration?
Not yet. We don't need to pay anyone yet.
Smell something, say something. Huh?
We're so happy with you, we'll let you pay your taxes twice a year. Oh.
Speaking of which, would you make sure that George and AJ remind me when the title has been transferred,
Yes.
it's recorded, that way I can get the process on our end, go into get the taxes paid.
Okay.
Well, next time we are together, I hope you'll bring the highlight reel from the annual meeting, because there are a lot of impressive
Good thing, right.
sightings in that annual report that was
Okay.
played out on Monday afternoon.
Okay.
All right.
Val Schaefer with the Economic Development Department. I've had a couple of people tell me, you need to announce who those people are more often
Oh.
when they're up there talking. You do it at the beginning, but if I check in later, I don't know who it is.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm trying to say that more often if you wonder why I'm doing that.
Okay.
All right.
Seems very
Thank you, Val.
official. All
Certainly
right,
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Steve Higginbotham, Buildings and Grounds, and others, and as assigned.
Just briefly, cover just a little bit more on what Ken covered this morning on the projects. The courthouse HVAC project, we're down to the programming. All the hard items, and everything's been installed, and it's down to Johnson Control doing the programming. As Ken indicated, again, jail bond project is starting to move a little bit more, I don't want to say rapid, that's not the right word,
But it's moving.
it's moving forward. The contractors are starting to come back, and we're still waiting on some product to come in before we start on the day rooms. We want to make sure we have all the product in place before, because we have to shut down the day room. We don't want to have to shut it down until we have all the product in place. Again, guardian ad litem, no change in it, although we will be starting on it probably next week as far as the demolition, and then get the cost back to you. And then, again, the online permitting, we had our kickoff meeting, and we wanted to have our next meeting after all the employees have come back, so it's sometime subsequent to June 15th. The other item was the security equipment. Recall last week that you awarded the contract, you have the contract back. You had a copy of that. Ron has had it for several days to review.
It's huge.
Any other questions?
Yeah.
We're ready to execute the contract.
I think we need to pull the trigger on this,
And get it going.
and I would move to execute the contract with Security Automation Systems.
You don't have an executive summary here, do you?
That is the.
That is
Yeah.
the executive summary.
This is the pared
Yeah.
down version.
Oh,
Yeah, remember the whole summary, the whole book's about that big.
I have curled up with this on a few occasions and just not.
Mine just sits by the toilet.
Steve, don't bring it in here, okay?
Oh,
Remember that episode of Seinfeld?
Yeah.
yeah.
oh.
yeah.
George tried to take a book back to the library.
Okay, Mary Ann, we do have a motion on the floor.
I hear you. I just wish it were not so darn costly. But I'll second it.
Unanimous.
Way to go, Steve.
Don't
Let's
do
get
it
this
now, the
thing
money
moving.
goes away.
Well, it'll leave me
Say-
more expensive.
It's a heck of an incentive.
Yeah.
Just one?
Yeah. I'm sorry, Ron, I didn't even ask you if you had a comment about the contract.
No.
It's in order?
I think
Steve
that's
said,
all
I
right.
think we're figuring out what we want.
I know, yeah. Take a breath, sigh.
Oh.
Just think of it. Yeah, there you go. There you go.
See no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil.
Thank you.
I say get more dogs. More dogs, fewer cameras.
As I indicated this morning, on our weekly test of the jail generator, it didn't didn't ramp up to enough voltage for it to switch the transfer switch. We only ramped up to about 36 volts per leg, which, it used to be, what, 20 per leg. And they traced it to the voltage regulator. The voltage regulator for this particular generator is obsolete.
Of course it is.
And, Caterpillar, the maker of the motor and generator, has a replacement, but it takes a conversion kit to put the new voltage.
Of course it does.
Is this planned obsolescence?
Well, it just almost seems like it. And that-
Because the generator's less than 15 years old.
Oh,
Yeah.
In any event, we found one in Indianapolis, and it was to be shipped here either today or first thing in the morning. So it's going to be down about 2 days, and it'll be up and running. The part is about $5,500, so the labor on top of that's on anticipating around $10,000.
Yep, yeah, that's about right.
We don't have any thunderstorms in the forecast, do we?
Yeah.
June never have
Yeah,
thunderstorms.
And same thing, then that segues into other thing, we timed our delivery of the vaccine to the health department contingent upon getting the generator installed over there. Well, it was installed timely, or it was here before the vaccine, but on the initial startup, Generac has to come and do it, and they couldn't do it until tomorrow. So that generator's not online yet until tomorrow at 10 a.m.
And we have the vaccine in our refrigerators?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
So we made provisions to check on the building every hour.
And a refrigerator would run on those little generators, those.
And we have one available.
All right, so
Okay.
that's what we'll do.
We have a small backup generator on site, should we lose power.
Okay.
to plug it in. So
And I've got one at the shop if you need another one.
Well, I think we've made all the contingency plans to get this through.
We're in good shape,
Until
really.
10 a.m. tomorrow.
Okay.
Do you have a backup generator for the jail?
Nothing that big. Yeah, that
Nothing
comes
that
on a
big.
semi.
That's a big one.
Whoa.
And then again, you heard last week when I was talking about the courts reopening, and I passed out the document to you, and I just, again, want to reiterate, I generally like to come to you with a plan and then how to pay for that plan, but this is still got a lot of moving parts to it. Judge Todd had finished his reopening protocol, which he was responsible to do, and send that off to the Indiana Supreme Court, and then they will look at it and approve it, I'm sure. But just as soon as it's back, I will share that with you via email before next week, because we need to start talking about that.
Because what we're finding is 2 to 3 weeks on some of the custom stuff on the plexiglass for the sneeze guards. By the time,
Now, the sneeze guards, we had measured, and I heard from the contractor on that. We have a meeting to finalize that next week with the courts, so.
I did talk to Kelly Knappy. Did you talk to her today too? Okay, so she gave you the info on that.
We also, there's a device, a piece of equipment that will allow us to sanitize a large area at any given time. So just big weed sprayers,
Right.
what it is, but it's a little more sophisticated than that. The jail bought 2 of them, and the sheriff is gonna loan us 1 of them until the one that we order comes in. And this will allow us to sanitize a large area in the courtrooms after they have a major hearing.
Sure.
So,
The extension of the courts in this building, of course, is the probation department, especially the juvenile area, as the Supreme Court mandating certain precautions in juvenile areas and probation, so we need to really look at this
all of
building as well.
probation. They will be under the same protocol in this document.
So this extraordinary cleaning protocol that we have to adhere to will not just be in the
Probably, but I
courthouse,
don't know
but
yet.
probably in this building as well.
Yes.
So as we're looking at augmented personnel to do this cleaning regimen, I'm leaning toward contracting it out rather than having
Right.
hired personnel, because as we know, when you contract it out, they have interchangeable parts, people who come
No,
regardless of childcare issues
That's
and
my first choice.
illness.
Yeah, that's my first choice, is to contract this out. It would almost be an exclusive contract, because I visualize, once the courts are back up and running, I mean, there's every day. And,
Daily,
So,
yeah.
but we'll address that, I hope, in the next week. Just be prepared to move fairly rapidly on some of this protocol.
And because of this rather deep pocket called the CARES Act, I think we need to look at this potential cleaning regimen, not just for what the Supreme Court is mandating of the courts, but also what we might wish to mandate of ourselves. And your buildings and grounds personnel are certainly being highly tasked during this period.
Yeah.
And I wish to thank you for all that you, your department, and your people have
It's been a
been
difficult
doing.
couple months.
It has been very difficult for them. I'm worried about the pressure that has been placed on them. And that is without us being 100% personnel.
Remember in the movie Airport, Floyd Bridges?
Oh, I
Yeah.
love that movie.
I picked a bad day to quit drinking.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. Yes, indeed. So
Yeah.
I think as we're looking at the Supreme Court's mandates,
Yeah.
we need to look at our own, perhaps somewhat self-imposed mandates. But as I read the CDC guidelines for local governments reopening of offices and the like, we are going to have even more demanding calls upon buildings and grounds as we return our people in place and as the public re-enters this building than what they have been facing over these last 2.5 months.
Correct.
So as we're looking at an outside vendor, I think, gentlemen, I would like to have your thoughts on this, but I think we need to examine our own cleaning needs beyond what we're looking at from the courts.
We have been doing that already. Steve and I were looking at Barnheiser, looking at ServaPro, which are the two local units that are possibly would have a person that, for all practical purposes, will be full-time here within the county to do COVID-19 cleaning.
Because I think our current staff have their, we do not
Well, they got their
have
hands
a-
full.
Yeah, and they're being tasked in other ways.
Right.
Well, we still have all of our other duties.
And all of our
Yeah.
other duties on top of all of this, I don't think we have, we can't clone our existing people to take on a second job.
And then then you put on top of that, the health department move, and this guardian ad litem move, I mean, it's just been,
It's been a busy time.
It's been stressful.
Yes, it has.
But I handle stress very well.
Yeah, you do.
I
I
just
know.
want you to know
Can tell
that
by
we
the veins
know
in your
that
neck.
what they're going through and appreciate it.
I go home and eat all.
I'm telling,
Don't tell her that.
I know.
Holy mackerel. Oh,
No, I'm
oh,
not.
we're
oh,
watching
I
you.
know.
I don't beat the dog.
oh. Okay, all right.
I know, my wife wouldn't let me anyway, so.
What
That's all
else?
I got.
That's all you got? All right, thank you. Beth gave you the requests from the Resource Inventory Council, WCTV, and the museum, and the animal welfare. So what I'd like for you to do is take a look at that, at the information that they have given you, and then if we decide we would like to have them to come in for some more clarification or something on there, then we'll have Beth contact them and we'll have them come in. But in looking just at a quick glance, it's pretty complete, the material they've given us of what they're looking for. And in looking at the request, for all practical purposes, with the exception of resource and animal welfare, the amounts they are asking for are the same they were for 2020. But resource inventory and animal welfare were cut back a little bit, $200 some odd roughly on resource and a couple of thousand on animal welfare. So I was surprised, very frankly, on animal welfare that they didn't come in asking for more. As you know, the city of Richmond took theirs to help the animal, so that's another $40,000 less that they have an income coming in to them. So read that over and we'll talk about it next week then.
I have a question.
Sure.
In the past, we have always met with these 4 organizations.
Right.
And I know they were going to request meeting with us. Why are we not meeting with them?
Well, nobody said we were not meeting. I just said, I want you to look at this, and then if we would like to have all of them come in, we would have Beth arrange for all of them to come in. You're absolutely,
I mean, because, we normally by now, we would have met with them. Have they asked to meet with us, or?
No, when I sent the budget letters out, because of the COVID and we being closed to the public, we started this route just to keep
Right.
the distancing, keep as
Okay.
few people in as possible. So we asked them to submit in writing.
Oh, so they were asked to submit
They
in
were
writing.
asked
I
to-
didn't hear that, okay.
They were asked to submit in writing only at this time instead of making appointments.
Because a couple of them asked me, what are we supposed to do? And I just said, well, call and ask for an
Well,
appointment. and-
those are the only ones that make a request.
right.
Yeah. And so then after, we'll meet with them after July 6th, but can't before? I mean,
Well, that would be too
Well,
late, your
that's-
budget is due.
I know,
Yeah.
that's why I
Yeah.
told them to
That's
go ahead.
why we
and
asked them to put it in writing this year.
Because, we can see people.
Well, sure. I mean,
We
there's
can, but we're,
there's no
if
problem.
you're needlessly putting them
Mary
at
Ann,
risk, and us
You're
too.
always wanting time to look at this. You always say to me, oh my gosh, I just got this, I can't make a decision. So what I decided is, here it is, you've got a week to look at it, and then we can ask these folks to come in, and so we could easily have them here by the 17th. And I'm sure they'd all be more than happy to come in and answer any questions that we might have.
Well, this is just different this year, and I wasn't,
It is.
and
Well, it
they,
is.
they, a
Part
couple of
COVID-
them had asked me,
because
what
of
should we do? And I said,
COVID-19.
just,
Yeah,
I have never asked. The way we've done this in the past, I think has been quite agreeable.
that's absolutely correct, Mary Ann. But like I said, there's a lot of material here. I want to give you plenty of time to look at it before we would ask those folks to come in here.
But we have not denied them access.
No, not at all.
Okay.
No,
No.
typically I would.
I don't know
write-
where you got that
I
idea.
would write.
Well, I
them a
was just
letter,
curious, it was different this year.
And I would give them a date to come in, because we had no one on the agenda ever.
Right.
We said, submit it in writing, and that's what you have. So they know they aren't forgotten. They were invited to make their request, but to do it in writing. And
Okay.
that's what you got.
Okay. Okay. Mary Ann, you got anything else? You want to say anything on
Yeah, well, I think
Hagerstown?
Hagerstown, I'd kind of like to hear your points of view on Hagerstown. I want to thank Beth Fields for dislodging from the dusty old tomes
She
that
did
have
a good
been
job on
rusted
that,
over,
yeah.
and had to call a construction crew to dislodge this document from 1988. that-
Well, basically, the interlocal agreement for the Hagerstown Airport, the county back in 1989 gave $25,000 to that.
I
and-
think the operative word is loaned.
Okay, Mary Ann says the operative word is loan for this, because they gave them $25,000 towards the purchase of that. And then the key thing is number 6, which says that Hagerstown shall not transfer or sell the airport property, nor shall Hagerstown cease operations of the municipal airport at the airport property without the prior written consent of the Board of Commissioners of Wayne County, provided, however, that such consent shall not be withheld if Hagerstown reimburses Wayne County for the full amount of the direct financial assistance provided by Wayne County hereunder. That was $25,000 back in January of 1989. And I know you have been privy, and Denny, to discussion there of what, so I'll kind of leave that up to you, because Mine was when they requested from Max Smith, who was the former county commissioner, said, I know there's an agreement back when. And so Beth did do an excellent job in pulling it out for us, so.
Yeah, he was president of the commissioners back 41 years ago.
Mhm.
Ron, if you could take a look at this as to whether this is truly a loan. Paragraph 9.
It's not a loan.
It's not a loan,
It's
it's
not a
financial
loan, Mary Ann.
assistance.
Paragraph 9 says that Hagerstown shall promptly reimburse Wayne County pro rata for its contribution toward the acquisition of the airport property. That sort of gives rise to the question as to whether this was a gift or a loan.
Right. The term of contribution suggests get more gift than loan.
Yeah,
Right.
But then why does it raise the topic of reimbursing Wayne County
Well,
for
that-
its
That's very
contribution?
simple, because if they applied for a grant and they got the grant, Wayne County government says, well, give me my $25,000 back. You got a grant to pay for all of
But
it.
why do you reimburse a grant?
because we gave them the grant for an airport, and if it's no longer an airport, we want our money back.
But no, even if it is still an airport, paragraph 9 says that if they do get federal or state monies, then they shall reimburse the county. So that gives rise to the question of whether this was a grant or a loan.
Not to me, it doesn't.
Mary Ann, it was a grant.
It was a grant.
And it says right in there that if Hagerstown, in the acquisition of the airport property, that if they received grant money to acquire the airport, then they had to use some of that grant money to reimburse the county.
Well, why
That
would
was
you
just-
reimburse a grant? You see my point?
No, I don't see your
at
point.
all.
Not at all.
I don't.
I think you're trying to construe this
Right.
to be a loan, therefore you're gonna tack on interest, and now we're talking hundreds of thousands of
Oh,
dollars.
I like 15%
Well,
over
I know you
41
do, but
years,
that's not
yeah.
fair to
Well,
anyone.
That's not gonna happen. It's actually very simple. They gave them $25,000, and they said if you go out and get a grant to help you pay for acquiring this land, you'll reimburse the county $25,000.
But more importantly, it
Yeah.
says if it ceases to be an airport, then you have to reimburse the county $25,000.
And, you know, I was unaware of this until, you know, I've had so many calls on this, and really all of them except one member of the Hagerstown Town Council are in favor of keeping the airport an airport. But there is such an interest stirred over this right now. I'd just like to know your feelings on this. Do we feel today, as our predecessors did 41 years ago, that, as the whereas clause states, that this is a valuable asset for not just Hagerstown, but for Wayne County as a whole?
I certainly agree with that.
Yeah,
I think it is.
certainly do too.
But I also
But
agree
it's also,
that
it's Hagerstown's
it's Hagerstown
decision to
Town
make.
Council has the duty to ask
Right.
questions now and then about what is this asset? Are we using it? And if we aren't using it, can it be converted to something else? I think that's what councils should do. Now, I think they're going to arrive at a decision that you have already, that's an asset, and they're going to want to keep it. But having the discussion is nothing wrong with that. They should have that discussion. And they've heard from the people too. The people in Hagerstown want to keep that airport.
Okay. It's just that we have not discussed this, and I think it's good to
Well-
know how we feel. I certainly feel that it is good to always examine any institution, any agency, any government function, and what has been done over the last week since the airport board met last Tuesday night is just amazing. The EAA is committing to make a great deal of improvements. The trailer will be removed, and they're building a shelter house for the whole community to use. The EAA has a fine program, the Young Eagles program, that they don't talk about, but they're sending a young man to Purdue on scholarship to study aviation. They're offering any young person ages 8 to 14 free rides in airplanes at Hagerstown. to really acquaint them with aviation, to educate them about aviation, and to interest them in the history, the technology, and future careers in aviation. They have not really been as public about what all EAA does. Also, I don't think very many people realize that the Air National Guard, Indiana Air National Guard, uses the Hagerstown Airport as a training site. And just in recent weeks, they so used the Hagerstown Airport for that. And over this past weekend, more than 30 planes landed at the Hagerstown Airport, probably as a direct result of the heightened interest at the possibility of losing this great asset, which is in fact the longest, straightest, smoothest, friendliest grass airport in all of America. And
Here, here. It is.
The two of you who work on the big fly-in, you
Well,
should
there's
understand all of those.
Becky Dirks, the president of council, held a Zoom meeting with council,
Uh-huh.
and they invited one of the flying circus members to be a part. Dewey Davenport was part of that
okay.
meeting, and he told council what that airport means to them.
Sure, I'm sure it does mean a lot, yeah. I have talked with President Dirks about this, did provide her copies of this. I know Mary Ann's given some copies to other folks also on there, so they do have a copy of the interlocal agreement. And I'm sure we'll eventually hear back and that their council will make a decision.
There's a
what they're
petition
to
going
do.
around on
Yeah.
Facebook too. Do you know the numbers on that, Mary Ann?
it's close to 6,000 signers on that petition,
Yeah, in a town of 1,900 people.
which is
Well,
pretty
that's
remarkable.
interesting.
Do they tell them to put it to a different use or just sell them the land?
Different use.
Solar panels on the airstrip. Wow, what great use.
Sports fields and solar panels.
Soccer field, maybe housing, yeah, just variety of issues. But
Somebody asked the question, I think, Ron, well, are we using it to the best advantage? is
Yes.
What I've heard.
Now, it does
And
look-
so they had all these different
It looks
projects
terrible,
that you could put out there.
but it
Yeah.
looks terrible. They used to mow it, now they just mow the runway. And it's knee high, you could bale it.
well, that's what they've got a farmer baling it like we do the
But you don't-
the Gateway Industrial Park.
It looks terrible. I went out there
Yeah.
last night.
It does. It looks terrible because they're going to have a farmer bale it any minute now. But they did mow the RC area, finish mowed that.
And it,
Well, they used to, the airport is in the black. There's a rumor that they're losing money. They are not losing money. And one of the reasons is the town of Hagerstown stopped mowing the airport.
is it the airport, is it town or is it the airport board that does the mowing out there? I thought
The
it was.
town, the airport board used to have its own budget, but the town eliminated their individual budget and folded it into the general fund.
Yeah.
And the town used to mow the airport, and now they don't.
That's right. It really looks bad.
And
I
now
don't-
the
and I don't
town
blame
is
that
blaming the
council member
airport
for
board
being
because it looks
upset.
terrible. But town,
Well, we will leave this in the good hands of the Hagerstown Town Council.
Yes, as we
And
should.
I'm sure they will make the best decision for their community as the folks get involved, and we'll kind of leave it at that.
I have one more thing.
Okay?
Last week, you were given the LPA consulting contract.
Oh, yes, from Barbara Fairman,
For
right.
Heidi Road design and right-of-way. Mary Ann, you had some questions about Road Fairman, Seeker's background.
yeah, and I've talked to Bob since. I just wanted to talk to Bob. Yeah.
So you're okay now?
Yes, I just,
All right.
without Bob or Amy or anybody here, I just wanted to have some time to ask
I
some
wouldn't-
For
questions.
your information, they designed the bridge right next to the city that is going to be renamed.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
They've been in our community for more than 40 years.
And they're the
Let me see
airport's
that mess.
engineer here in
Want to make
Richmond.
a motion
so-
on that, or is
The
there?
person who started at Cliff Seaford is my cousin.
Oh,
Didn't know
really?
that.
I move to approve the LPA consulting contract with Butler Fairman.
Second.
Unanimous.
Thank you. Amy will be happy.
Yes, she will be, yes. Very good, Beth.
Thank you.
Denny, for your information, this morning before the Personnel Committee, I did make the recommendation for Amy to increase her salary for the additional duties she takes on at the Highway Department, to increase that at $3.75 more per hour, which is the same as we did before when AJ left. That will give her approximately $300 more per week, retroactive to the
Per
pay
pay.
period was May
Yeah,
the 11th.
for 2 weeks.
Yeah, for
Yeah,
2 weeks.
I gotcha.
Pay period, but I wanted you to be aware of that.
Well, thank you. I
We
think
talked
that's the
about
right
that
thing to
last
do.
week, and so
Mhm.
I wanted to get that on so we could get her paid for that.
Retroactive to the first day Bob was gone, May
Good.
11th.
May the 11th.
Good.
Yes. Denny, you have anything else?
No.
Marianne, anything else? Okay, we will recess at this time and we'll reconvene for an executive, well, that's right. No, we're done, but we do have an executive session at
So
3:30.
we're going to adjourn
So,
now.
and we'll adjourn here.
Okay.
That's right.